Boo. Hello, welcome back to another big review. Today we're reviewing Captain Beefheart's Safe as Milk. See, I can actually show you the record now because I'm not somewhere it's gonna get dirty. This is the debut album of Captain Beefheart and his Magic Band, released in 1967 under Buddha Records there. It's misspelt, but you know, that's fine. This is a really fun album. It is really bluesy, it's very upbeat at times, very dark and dingy in others. Is a double LP pressing, comes with a bonus LP full of additional tracks, which I won't be covering in this video, as not only are they mostly bonus instrumentals, quite a few of them were actually fully released on their next album, Strictly Personal, which I will get to eventually. I'll preface by saying that this is a somewhat important album to me. When I was a teenager, I think I discovered this when I was about 16. It changed a lot about myself, mostly how I dress, how I act around people, my outlook on life. This album and Dr. John's Gree album, those two were very important. I remember I had this big like faux leather jacket that I wore in college, and I only wore it a couple of times because it was massive, it was heavy. I wish I still had it because it was really nice. I don't know if I have any proper pictures of me wearing it, but I would love to have it again because it was such a nice coat, and mostly because of these albums did I think, I want to get that, I want to wear it. But starting off with Sure Enough and Yes I Do, the intro track of the album. It's pretty good, it's quite jovial, it is a good intro track. I'm not sure it entirely stands out through the rest of the album, but it does do a nice job of setting the mood. But it is immediately surpassed by Zigzag Wanderer, which is this really jumping, full energy song that starts off slow but just dives straight into this really up-tempo beat, and then during the sort of pre-post chorus there's a point in the bridge where the bass comes through, and it's this really froggy, bouncy sounding bass that, because this is a stereo album, it comes through on the left track whilst you have the singing on the right track, if I remember that rightly. That bass rhythm comes back to my mind every now and then. The only disappointing thing, really short. A lot of these songs I personally feel are too short. I think they could stand to be a little bit longer. Next up, Call On Me. Another really good ballad track. The first really good ballad track. It's about, if you need a friend, leave a note by the door. When I see it, I'll come wherever you are. Yeah, there's points where this track sort of like goes from up tempo to down tempo to up and down and up and down, but it's got a good flow to it between those 2 points. There's a point after like the second, like when it comes to the end of the track, where the instrumental sort of pan to the left, and you think it's going to quiet down, but then suddenly Don Van Vliet, Beefheart himself, suddenly comes back and starts singing full of passion. The instrumental like builds up again, and then suddenly comes back out. I'm like, there's no good resolve there. A lot of these tracks I don't feel have a great resolve. They do the classic fade out, but I would have loved to have seen that one. Next track, Dropout Boogie. The first one to feature Beefheart's like really gruff, deep vocals. It's a very rough song, both lyrically and sonically. Dirty vocals, very rough feeling lyrics. There's a post-chorus bridge. There is just a bridge after like the first and second chorus, and then to the end of the track, where they use this. I don't know if it's. It doesn't sound like a xylophone, but it sounds more like one of those wooden type of xylophones, and it's a repeating track, but the feel of it kind of makes me, like, the mental image I get is you're rough on the roads, you're on the streets, you're living on Skid Row, and it layers up like another fifth or an octave, whatever it is. It keeps getting faster and faster and layers even more. An immediate shift after that track, we come to So Glad. A beautiful song, a really beautiful song. All of the other previous ones are like high energy, we're going to build up, and then we get really dirty and dark. And then this one comes in, and it's really soft, and it's a love song. I think it's about enjoying, the good times you had with an ex instead of focusing on the bad times. Beefheart so far has I'd say he has a wide range of vocal ability that he can achieve, because he does do more of those rough vocals, but I'm so glad he is the softest that he is singing, and he does have a lovely voice. It's nice to listen to compared to the other tracks. It feels passionate and meaningful, like he is putting a lot of effort behind his vocal abilities, and it really does pay off. Sorry if I'm looking off the screen there. I'm currently filming by my window, and I can just see some birds jumping around in the bushes down there. Oh yeah, so far I've not given any ratings for these songs. I don't really want to, mostly because Gumboot Soup, I found Gumboot Soup, because it's such an eclectic mix, I kind of have to rate them individually. But for this one, the entire album will get a rating in the end, just not each track individually. Anyway, next one, Electricity. Starts off on this slow grind, and then vocals come in, there's a little bit of drums, and suddenly this theremin comes in. Ooh. And the theremin adds a lot of detail to this track. It adds that sort of electrical feel that the song's going for, including Captain Beefheart's really gravelly vocals again. They're not deep and gruff, like deep at the back of the throat. It's more of an electricity, and it adds something else to it, which is very, very fun to listen to. It's very fun. From that darker, rougher track comes Yellow Brick Road, and it's this interesting one, because it starts off with this really light, hopping, skipping song that is like, follow the yellow brick road, and it's like you feel like you're just going on a little trip, maybe a little road trip, and then suddenly the chorus comes through, and it's this big airy chorus, and it's this shouted, it feels grandiose in that sudden moment, and then cuts back to follow the yellow brick road. That's really interesting. I found that really interesting. Here's one that I do have got a bit to talk about, because I did a little bit of research for this album. I don't usually research albums, but I thought I'd look into a bit more of the backstory and such. Abba Zaba, which it was my immediate favourite. It was the first one I thought, this is incredible, I love this song. It's an interesting, has a very interesting feel. It completely ignore the lyrics. The lyrics do not make any sense, but they sound really nice. The choice of words just fits everything else. There's no worry in not really knowing. Oh, sorry, I look a bit short in here. I'm 6'4". I'm a tall man, and I think my camera's too high because it makes me look really short in the frame. Yeah, the bass on this one, much like all the other tracks, is doing a great job of essentially being bass and melody. He uses bass more than he uses the guitars for melody and rhythm, and this one is a standout one for that as well. The drums feel more bluesy, but not quite bluesy. They have this sort of big wooden jungle drum feel to them. I don't know how else to describe it. My musical vocabulary is pretty slim. It's nicely mixed. It's very nicely mixed. Yeah, it was my favourite for a while. Mostly for the confusing lyrics. I just liked that it didn't make sense, but I also like the bizarre nature of the track itself. It's not a confusing track, but it is sort of not bossa nova, but the big lounge dancing and the weird avant-garde dances that came out in the 60s. This would have fit quite well in one of those songs. The big band sort of strange dancing that I cannot follow, because I like dancing, but I don't like analysing dance. I don't find that interesting. But it was weird to watch. And then moving on to Plastic Factory, I'd say this is the most classic bluesy track. Just a straight chugging blues track about working a terrible job that you don't want, and you just want your boss to leave you alone, and everything kind of sucks. Because it just sort of, has a slight little swing to it, which is really nice. Captain Beefheart does this interesting upward inflection at the end of every line, almost every line. He will like sing low and then sort of come up high, like at the very last note, and it's not off-putting in the slightest. It does make it a little bit more enjoyable, because it is a nice sort of like a quick refresher after every low line. There's a little down, up, down, low, and then comes up, and it's comes up really high, higher than I could do there. Shows how better he is at this than I am. Next up is Where There's Woman. Starts off with very sort of low and slow, a little bit of harmonica. The drums are quite sparse, and they move around a lot during each verse. And then when you get to the chorus, suddenly full speed, big attention, everything's loud, and it's in your face. Oh, and it really grabs your attention. It's so good. Having this really comfy, down and dirty sort of song suddenly jump up at you and grab your attention. It's great. It's so good. But I'm disappointed is that it's over very quickly. Like most of these songs, I think they use their time rightly. This one spends enough time in the slow parts, full energy, like the chorus is nice, but then at the end it suddenly builds energy and he's starting to wail louder and louder, where there's woman, and he's really putting force into it, and the track is just drifting out just quite quietly. I want more. I really want more. I want it to be longer. I don't know if they probably did release a longer version of it, but it does need more time, because it just gets good and then just drifts out again. I'm like, why? Oh, it's frustrating. It's really frustrating. I wish there was more to it, but that's that. We come to Grown So Ugly. I'm sure many of us can relate to a title like that. This is a cover of another blues song by... Sorry, I can't remember his name. It adds great life to the track, because I listened to the original as well. Gives you a little bit of information, bit by bit, telling you about, I get up in the morning, I wash my hair, I brush my teeth, I clean my face, I put on my clothes, get out the door, go and see my lady that I haven't seen for how many odd years. She says, "Who the hell are you? You don't look like my man. You're ugly." How could this happen to me? What went wrong? And this one gives it a lot more energy behind that, and it's a little bit repetitive. I think they could have changed the key that it's in, as it goes along. But I know that's blues for you, Bam bam bam. That's blues. It really does have a jumping feel to it, much like Yellow Brick Road as well. They both have this really jumping, sort of skipping feel to it. So real shoe tappers. Yeah, there's a point after the chorus where suddenly things get quiet and it's like doom 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 doom, and then suddenly the drums start to, you hear the drums come up in the background, everything comes into frame again, and then you get back into speed and Captain Beefheart's wailing at the top of his lungs. It's good. It's really good. And then the last track of the album, the one that I eventually found to be my favourite, Autumn's Child. It is so full of mystery, so many ideas that work so well with each other. There's the theremin, there's wide booming chants, there's the bridge is really nice, there's the second movement. I think there's 3 movements in this track. It never slows down, it just goes on to the next thing, always fresh, every listen, and lyrics are weird as always. There are many points in this song where it's it does something once, it's not going to do it again. I think it is such a nice closer, because it's one of the tracks that actually has an ending to it which finishes. So the album actually has a nice start, has a very nice finish. And it's like you've just run this marathon. I say marathon, I think it's not even a full hour, it's like half an hour of tracks. Not the longest thing in the world. Overall, I give this album like at least an 8.5 out of 10. That's not including the bonus tracks. I'll give another comment about the bonus tracks. A few of them, were re-released as full finished songs on the next album, Strictly Personal. One of them being Safe as Milk. The title track of this album was a bonus track of this album, and then became an actual song on the next album, which is very strange. I read that Captain Beefheart named the album Safe as Milk based on like a sort of tongue-in-cheek joke about women's breast milk not being safe because of radiation or something. So I suppose that even though the song wasn't finished, he just really liked that name. And I like the name as well. I think everyone sort of knows Beefheart for stuff like Troutmask Replica and Lick My Decals Off Baby. And all of his very strange. Sorry, I think I've got a bit of a cold coming on. This doesn't help. This doesn't help. Constantly talking. Been talking for half an hour. Doesn't help. This is a great album, and once you listen to it, I think you'll sort of understand probably what I felt when I was a teenager discovering this album for the first time. I didn't shy away from this kind of music at that point, and I think it helped me really push out what I liked listening to. Thank you very much for watching. I hope I can break this down into at least a 12-minute video. I don't know, maybe I will, maybe I won't. But it's been a pleasure. I hope you'll have a lovely evening, enjoy your weekends, and I shall see you next week for... I've got no clue. Bye.